Jay-Woo stood on the bridge of his dying ship, looking at the tactical display. 3 hegemony vessels remained, fleeing toward the edge of the system. His own ship had perhaps 5 minutes of power left, but he had one final card to play. Computer, prepare my daughter's cryopod for emergency ejection. Program it to rendezvous with the Council shuttle. Captain, ejecting the pod will use our remaining power reserves. The ship will be dead in space. I know. Jay-Woo moved to a wall panel and pulled out an environmental suit. After you eject the pod, activate the Nova device. The computer was silent for a long moment. Captain, the Nova device will destroy everything within a light-minute radius, including this ship. That's the idea. Jay-Woo sealed his helmet and checked the suit's systems. The hegemony needs to know that humanity isn't extinct. They need to understand what happens when they threaten us. Through the ship's corridors, Dr. Velinara and the other survivors were making their way to the escape pods. The lights were dimming as power systems failed one by one. He's going to sacrifice himself, Captain Rixton realized as they reached the pod bay. He's going to die to save us. That's what humans do, Dr. Velinara said quietly. She had been studying the data from the human computers during their brief time aboard. They don't surrender. They don't retreat. They fight until there's nothing left to fight with, and then they keep fighting anyway. The escape pods launched just as Jay-Woo's daughter's cryochamber was ejected toward Min-hee's shuttle. The young researcher caught the pod with her ship's grappling systems, not fully understanding what was inside. On the human ship, Jay-Woo was alone now. The lights had failed completely. Life support was gone. Only the emergency systems were still running, powered by the last dregs of the ship's energy reserves. Computer, he said into the darkness. Nova device status. Devices armed and ready, Captain. Are you certain about this course of action? Jay-Woo looked through the viewport. At the fleeing hegemony ships, they thought they had won. They thought they had destroyed the last human. They spent 3,000 years making sure the galaxy forgot us, he said. Time to remind them why we were worth forgetting. Nova device activated. Detonation in 60 seconds. Jay-Woo walked through his ship one last time, visiting the places where his people had lived and dreamed of finding a new home. The hydroponics bays where they had grown food. The recreation areas where children had played. The libraries where they had stored the sum total of human knowledge and culture. All of it would die with him. But his daughter would live, and the galaxy would remember. 30 seconds to detonation. Through his suit radio, he could hear panicked transmissions from the hegemony ships as they detected the energy buildup. Unknown weapon detected. Energy readings are off the scale. All ships, maximum acceleration. We need to clear the blast radius. They wouldn't make it. Jay-Woo had made sure of that. 10 seconds to detonation. He stood on the bridge where he had commanded colony ships filled with hope, where he had made the desperate decisions that had kept his people alive for one more day, one more year, one more generation. Goodbye, Hai-Jin, he whispered. Daddy loves you. The Nova device detonated. For one brief, impossible moment, a new star was born in the void sector. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away, a pillar of fire that reached across space. Like the finger of an angry god, the remaining hegemony ships simply vanished, consumed by energies that turned matter into pure light. The debris field that had held the remains of human civilization was swept clean, leaving nothing but empty space and fading radiation. But from that fire, something incredible happened. As the explosion began to fade, a single figure emerged from the heart of the blast. Jay-Woo, protected by his environmental suit and something that might have been divine intervention, walked through the vacuum of space as if it were solid ground. His ship was gone. His weapons were gone. Everything that had made him powerful was destroyed. But he was alive, and he was moving toward the escape pods with impossible determination. Min-hee's shuttle reached him first. She opened her cargo bay and brought him aboard, along with the cryopod containing his daughter. As he removed his helmet, she saw that his face was burned and his eyes were filled with pain, but he was smiling. "Is she safe?" were his first words. "She's fine," Min-Hee assured him. "The cryosystems are stable, but how did you survive that explosion?" Jae-woo looked out at the space where his ship had been. "Humans are hard to kill," he said simply. "We've had a lot of practice surviving impossible things." Dr. Velinara's escape pod docked with the shuttle a few minutes later. When she saw Jae-woo, her compound eyes went wide. "You walked out of a stellar explosion," she said in amazement. "I had something to live for," Jae-woo replied, looking at his daughter's cryopod. "Humans always do." The journey back to Council Space took 3 days. During that time, Jae-woo told them the true history of the galaxy. How the hegemony had been systematically eliminating species that showed too much potential. How humanity had been their greatest threat because humans refused to accept limits. "We weren't the strongest species," he explained. "We weren't the smartest or the fastest or the most numerous. But we were the most stubborn. When everyone else gave up, we kept trying. When everyone else accepted defeat, we looked for another way to win." "What will you do now?" Captain Rixton asked. "You and your daughter are the last humans alive. How do you rebuild from 2 people?" Jae-woo smiled, and for the first time, it was a smile filled with hope instead of sadness. "We're not the last," he said. "We're just the first to wake up. Humanity built dozens of hidden colonies before the end. Ships full of our people, sleeping in cryostasis, waiting for the galaxy to be safe enough for us to return." He pulled up a star chart on the shuttle's computer. Dozens of systems were marked with small symbols. They're out there, waiting for a signal that it's time to come home. And now that the galaxy knows we exist again, now that they've seen what happens when you threaten us, maybe it's finally safe to wake them up. Dr. Velinara stared at the chart. "How many people are we talking about?" "Millions," Jae-woo said. "Quietly, sleeping in ships hidden in nebulae, in asteroid fields, in the dark spaces between stars. Waiting for someone to tell them that the war is over and they can start building again." When they reached Council Space, the news of what had happened in the Void Sector had already spread. The explosion had been seen from multiple systems. Sensor readings of the battle were being analyzed by military experts who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Jae-woo stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time he wasn't a myth or a legend. He was a living reminder of what his species could do when pushed too far. "Honored members," he said in the same chamber where Min-Hee had first presented her research, "I am Jae-woo, captain of the human colony ship New Hope, survivor of the species you thought was extinct. I stand before you not as a conqueror or a threat, but as someone who wants to make sure what happened to my people never happens to anyone else." The chamber was completely silent. Even the background hum of the station's system seemed muted. "The hegemony is not gone," Jae-woo continued. "What you saw in the Void Sector was just one fleet. There are others, and they will come for you eventually. They always do, but now you know they can be fought. Now you know they can be beaten." He activated a holographic display showing the locations of the sleeping human colonies. "My people are waking up. We're coming home to a galaxy that forgot us, but we haven't forgotten you. We offer our alliance, our technology, our knowledge, not because we want to rule, but because we want to make sure everyone has the chance to live free." In the back of the chamber, Admiral Cuthbert's replacement listened with growing dread. The hegemony's greatest nightmare was coming true. Humanity was returning, and this time they wouldn't be alone. The age of myths was ending. The age of legends had begun, and in a small cryopod aboard Min-Hee's research station, a little girl named Hai-Jin was beginning to wake up to a galaxy that would never be the same. Day closed his eyes and remembered a day from 40 years ago. He was 12 years old, standing on the bridge of the colony ship New Sol as it traveled through the void between stars. His father, Ken Bora, worked as the chief engineer on that ship, keeping the massive engines running during their 3-year journey to establish a new human settlement. The attack came without warning. Pirate ships appeared from behind an asteroid field, their weapons charging with deadly light. The colony ship had no military defenses, only civilian families hoping to start new lives on a distant world. Captain Park ordered all hands to emergency stations, but everyone knew they were going to die. That was when Day heard his father laugh, not a nervous giggle or a frightened sound, but real laughter that echoed through the bridge. Bora was looking at the approaching pirate ships through the main viewer, shaking his head with genuine amusement. What could possibly be funny right now? Captain Park had asked. Bora wiped tears from his eyes. We traveled 300 light years from Earth, past nebulas and black holes and cosmic storms that could tear apart planets. We survived all of that just to get robbed by a bunch of criminals hiding behind some rocks. The universe has a sense of humor. His laughter was infectious. First the navigator started chuckling, then the communications officer began to smile. Within minutes, the entire bridge crew was laughing at the absurdity of their situation. They were still going to die, but somehow the fear had left them. And then something impossible happened. The pirates stopped attacking. Their leader sent a message to the colony ship. He wanted to know why the humans were laughing instead of begging for their lives. When Bora explained the joke, the pirate leader actually laughed too. The raid was called off, and the pirates escorted the colony ship safely to their destination. Day opened his eyes in his laboratory and looked at Yuna. My father always said humans were different from other species. Not smarter or stronger. But we could find humor in anything, even death. Yuna was studying the quantum data on the screens. These patterns are definitely real. But I do not understand how laughter could affect space-time. Neither do I, Day admitted. But the correlation is too strong to ignore. They spent the next several hours analyzing every piece of data they had collected. The station's AI system, designated Aria, helped them process the information. Aria had been designed to assist with scientific research, and her holographic form appeared as a blue-tinted woman with kind eyes. The quantum stabilization events show a direct relationship with human emotional responses, Aria reported. However, not all human emotions create this effect. Fear, anger, sadness, and even happiness produce no measurable changes in the quantum foam. Only laughter generates these stabilization pockets. What about alien laughter? Yuna asked. I have analyzed the emotional responses of all non-human species on the station, Aria continued. The Ashkari experience what they call harmonic joy, which creates beautiful music. The Ventlans have expansion moments where they briefly increase in size. The Nexus achieve optimal satisfaction through efficient problem solving. None of these responses affect space-time. Day felt a chill run down his spine. If human laughter was truly unique in the universe, what did that mean for their species? And more importantly, what did it mean for the dying cosmos around them? A soft chime from the communication system interrupted his thoughts. Park Min-soo's voice came through the intercom, shaky with emotion. Dr. Kang, Dr. Lee, you need to come to the communication center immediately. I received something from Earth. They rushed through the station corridors, past groups of alien delegates who watched them with curious expressions. The communication center was a small room filled with complex equipment designed to receive signals from across the galaxy. Most of it had been shut down as star systems disappeared, cutting off communication networks that had taken centuries to build. Min-soo sat at his console, staring at a screen full of wave patterns. He was 26 years old, born on a space station, and had never seen Earth except in pictures. His job was to monitor the final transmissions from dying worlds, recording the last words of entire civilizations. "This came in just before Earth was consumed," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is not what we expected." He played the transmission. Instead of screams or prayers or desperate pleas for help, the speakers filled with the sound of laughter, millions of voices, all laughing together as their world ended. The sound was not mad or hysterical, but genuinely joyful, as if the entire population of Earth had just heard the best joke in the universe. The laughter continued for exactly 7 minutes and 34 seconds. Then it stopped, and Earth was gone. The quantum sensors detected massive stabilization events during those 7 minutes, Arya reported. The readings were so strong they registered across interstellar distances. Whatever was happening on Earth, it affected space-time. Throughout the entire solar system. Day sat down heavily in a chair. His homeworld, the birthplace of humanity, had died laughing. But why? What could possibly be funny about the end of everything? "There is something else," Minsu said. He activated another screen that showed communication. "Logs from the past few months. I have been tracking final transmissions from human colonies as they were consumed by the void hunger. Look at the pattern." The data showed dozens of human settlements, space stations, and colony ships. Each one had sent out final messages as the void hunger approached. And in every single case, those final messages contained laughter. The colony? On Kepler 442b, laughed for 3 hours before they disappeared, Minsu explained. The mining station at Vega sent out comedy routines instead of distress calls. The passenger liner Aurora broadcast a stand-up comedy show as they were being consumed. Yuna looked at the data with growing amazement. It is as if humans everywhere came to the same conclusion at the same time. That the end of the universe was somehow funny. Or maybe, Day said slowly, they realized something we have not figured out yet. Something about why we are here, why we evolved the ability to laugh, and what it means for the cosmos. He stood up and looked at his colleagues. Around them, the station continued to shake as temporal distortions grew stronger. The void hunger was getting closer, and they had maybe days before it reached their sector. "We need to gather the alien delegates," he said. "If human laughter really does affect space-time, then maybe we are not as helpless as we thought. Maybe the universe is not ending. Maybe it is just waiting for the punchline." Outside the communications center, the last stars in their region of space flickered like candles in the wind. But for the first time in months, Day felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The main conference room of Station Omega had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Representatives from the last surviving species in the universe sat around a circular table, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of sounds, lights, and electromagnetic pulses. The Ashkari delegate, whose name translated roughly to Song of Deep Waters, created harmonic frequencies that made the air itself vibrate with meaning. The Ventlan representative had condensed its gaseous form into a tight spiral that pulsed with different colors to express complex thoughts. 3 Nexus units stood perfectly still, their red optical sensors focused on the data displays that they had prepared. "You are suggesting that laughter can affect the fundamental structure of reality." Song of Deep Waters harmonized, the crystal formations on its body glowing with skeptical patterns. "This contradicts every law of physics we understand." Day stood at the head of the table, his weathered face serious despite the seemingly impossible theory he was proposing. "I know how it sounds, but the data is clear. Human laughter creates measurable effects in the quantum foam." He activated a holographic display that showed the mathematical relationship between human emotional responses and space-time fluctuations. The patterns were undeniable, even if they made no sense according to conventional science. "We have been studying this phenomenon for days," Yuna added. "Every instance of genuine human laughter corresponds with a temporary stabilization of local Spacetime. The effect lasts longer and grows stronger when multiple humans laugh together. The Ventlan representative, who called itself Wind Through Stars, expanded slightly and shifted to a deep blue color that indicated curiosity. We have observed humor in many species. Why would human laughter be different? Arya's holographic form appeared at the center of the table, her blue-tinted image flickering slightly as the station's power system struggled. I have analyzed the brain patterns of all species during moments of humor and joy. Human laughter involves unique neural pathways that do not exist in any other known life form. She displayed a series of brain scans showing the differences between human and alien responses to humorous situations. The human scans showed activity in regions that seemed to connect directly to quantum field fluctuations. When humans laugh, Arya continued, they briefly step outside normal temporal flow. For a few seconds, their consciousness exists in a state that physics cannot fully explain. One of the Nexus units spoke through its vocal synthesizer, its mechanical voice emotionless but somehow conveying deep interest. This suggests that human evolution was guided by forces we do not understand. No species develops such specific quantum sensitivity by accident. Day nodded. That is exactly what I think happened. But to prove it, we need to look at human history through a different lens. He activated another display that showed Earth's historical timeline, but instead of focusing on wars, discoveries, or cultural achievements, it highlighted moments when humans had laughed in the face of impossible odds. Look at the pattern, he said. Every major survival event in human history corresponds with documented cases of laughter during crisis situations. The display showed data points stretching back thousands of years. When early humans left Africa and spread across the world, ancient cave paintings depicted laughing figures even during ice ages and natural disasters. When they developed agriculture, built cities, and reached for the stars, records consistently showed humans finding humor in their struggles. The first human space mission almost failed when a critical system malfunctioned, Day explained. Instead of panicking, the astronauts started telling jokes about their situation. Mission Control recorded their laughter, and somehow the failing system stabilized long enough for them to complete their mission. Song of Deep Waters created a complex harmonic pattern that expressed deep confusion. You are suggesting that human laughter has been affecting reality throughout your species' history, but no one noticed? We noticed, Una said quietly. We just did not understand what we were seeing. Humans have always said that laughter is the best medicine, that humor helps people survive difficult times. We thought it was just psychology. We never considered that it might be literal. Park Min-soo entered the conference room carrying a datapad with new information. His young face was pale with excitement and fear. I have been analyzing the quantum archaeology data that Arya helped me access. Dr. Kang, you need to see this. Quantum archaeology was a theoretical science that could examine the quantum traces left by past events. By studying the quantum foam's memory patterns, scientists could sometimes reconstruct what had happened in specific locations, even millions of years ago. I scanned the quantum history of Earth going back 200,000 years, Min-soo said. Every major evolutionary leap in human development corresponds with massive quantum stabilization events. When humans first developed language, when they discovered fire, when they created art and music, he displayed the data for everyone to conda. See, the pattern was clear and consistent across millennia. But here is the strange part, Min-soo continued. The quantum events were not caused by the evolutionary leaps. They preceded them, as if reality itself was being prepared for human development. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If human evolution had been guided by quantum effects triggered by their own future laughter, it suggested that time itself was not linear in the way they understood it. There is more, Arya announced. I have detected similar quantum patterns in the cosmic background radiation. The universe's fundamental structure shows signs of stabilization events that occurred billions of years ago, long before any known life existed. The Nexus unit processed this information for several seconds before speaking. You are proposing that the universe created humans specifically to laugh at it. Day smiled, and for the first time in days, he felt the urge to chuckle at the absurdity of their situation. Maybe not exactly, but I think the universe has been waiting for a species that could appreciate the cosmic joke of existence itself. Outside the conference room, Station Omega shuddered as another wave of temporal distortion passed through their sector. The void. Hunger was less than 2 days away now, and its approach was making reality increasingly unstable. Sometimes the lights aged years in seconds. Other times, conversations would repeat themselves as time loops formed and dissolved. But as Day looked around the table at the representatives of the last surviving civilizations, he realized something important. Despite everything they had lost, despite facing the end of existence itself, he was not afraid anymore. "We need to run an experiment," he said. "If human laughter really can affect space-time, then maybe we can do more than just observe quantum stabilization events. Maybe we can create them deliberately." The alien delegates looked at each other with their various forms of communication. They had spent months preparing for death, accepting that the universe was ending and there was nothing they could do about it. Now, a human scientist was suggesting they could fight back with jokes. Song of Deep Waters created a harmonic pattern. That might have been laughter in its own crystalline way. This is either the most brilliant scientific theory in galactic history or the most elaborate joke ever told. Day grinned. Maybe both. And maybe that is exactly the point. The void hunger arrived exactly when the station's sensors predicted it would. Through the massive viewing ports of Station Omega, the assembled delegates watched reality itself begin to unravel. It did not look like darkness approaching. Instead, it looked like the universe was simply forgetting how to exist. Stars did not explode or burn out. They faded like old memories, becoming dimmer and less real until they were just empty spaces where something important used to be. The effect was spreading toward their station like ripples in a pond, but ripples that erased everything they touched. Planets disappeared. Asteroids vanished. Even the space between objects began to lose meaning as the fundamental forces that held reality together started to forget their purpose. Day stood in the observation deck with the other humans on the station. There were only 12 of them left, the final survivors of a species that had once numbered in the billions. They watched their approaching doom with expressions that ranged from terror to resignation. But then Una started to giggle. It began as a small sound, barely audible above the groaning of the station's failing systems. She was looking at the advancing wall of non-existence with her scientific mind, trying to understand what she was seeing. And suddenly, the sheer absurdity of their situation struck her as hilarious. "We are the last humans in the universe," she said between giggles, "and we are standing here watching reality end while trying to figure out if we can stop it by telling jokes. This is either the most important moment in cosmic history or the setup to the universe's worst punchline." Her laughter was infectious. Park Min-soo started chuckling, then broke into full laughter as he realized the irony of their situation. They had traveled to the edge of existence to make a last stand against entropy itself, and their secret weapon was humor. The station's engineer, Lee Junho, began laughing so hard he had to lean against a wall for support. "My grandmother always said that if you were going to die, you might as well die laughing. I just never thought she meant it literally." One by one, the other humans joined in. Not nervous laughter or the hysterical giggles of people who had lost their minds, but genuine amusement at the cosmic joke they found themselves in. They were specks of dust in an infinite universe, and they were about to attempt the impossible using nothing but their ability to see the humor in existence. The quantum sensors throughout the station immediately detected the effects. Stabilization. Events began appearing all around them, more powerful than anything they had recorded before. The approaching void hunger, which had been steadily consuming space at a predictable rate, suddenly slowed. In the conference room, the alien delegates watched the readings with amazement. The mathematical impossibility of what they were seeing would have been enough to drive most scientists insane, but the evidence was undeniable. The void hunger is responding to the quantum fluctuations, Arya reported, her holographic form flickering, as massive amounts of energy flowed through the station's systems. Its approach has decreased by 60%. Song of Deep Waters created harmonic frequencies that expressed wonder and disbelief. The humans are affecting something that has consumed entire galaxies. How is this possible? But the Nexus units had been analyzing the data more carefully. The void hunger is not just slowing down, one of them announced. It is trying to communicate. The station's communication arrays, which had been silent for days as the last civilizations fell, suddenly burst to life. But instead of words or images, they received patterns of quantum fluctuations that seemed almost like a language. Arya worked frantically to decode the message. It is complex, but I believe I can translate the basic meaning. The void hunger is asking why we are laughing. Day felt a chill of understanding run through him. It is not a force of destruction. It is a consciousness. And it has been waiting for someone to get the joke. The quantum communications continued, growing more complex as Arya's translation systems adapted to the strange language. What emerged was not the voice of a cosmic destroyer, but something far more profound. The void hunger had been the universe's way of ending cycles of existence that had failed to understand their own purpose. Every universe before this one had ended in despair, fear, or simple acceptance of death. But this was the first time any species had faced the end of everything and found it amusing. It says it has been waiting for billions of years, Arya translated. Waiting for life to evolve that could appreciate the ultimate joke of existence. Through the viewing ports, the wall of non-existence had stopped advancing entirely. Instead, it hung in space like a question mark, waiting for an answer that only humans seemed capable of providing. Yuna wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. What is the joke? What is so funny about the universe ending? Day looked at his colleagues, at the alien delegates who had learned to hope again, at the station that had become the last gathering place for conscious life in the cosmos. The answer was so simple and so profound that he could barely contain his amusement. The joke is that there is no joke, he said, starting to laugh again. We spent billions of years trying to find meaning in existence, looking for purpose and grand design and cosmic significance. And the ultimate truth is that the universe exists for no reason at all, it just is. And that is hilarious. The quantum communications from the void hunger intensified, and for a moment, the translation systems detected something that sounded remarkably like laughter. But here is the real punchline, Day continued, his laughter growing stronger. The universe may exist for no reason, but that does not make it meaningless. The fact that we can laugh at the absurdity of it all, that we can find joy in our own cosmic insignificance, makes us the most significant thing that ever happened. The station shuddered, but not from the approaching void hunger. Instead, it was responding to quantum fluctuations so powerful that they were affecting the fabric of spacetime itself. The laughter of 12 humans was creating ripples that spread outward from Station Omega, touching the quantum foam across light years of space. And in response, the void hunger began to change. The wall of non-existence that had consumed galaxies started to shift and reshape itself. Stars that had been erased from reality began to reappear, but not as they had been before. They were brighter, more stable, as if they had been reinforced by the universe's newfound appreciation for its own existence. Time itself is laughing, Arya announced, her voice filled with wonder. The fundamental forces of reality are responding to the quantum resonance of human humor. The universe is learning to appreciate its own joke. Through the viewing ports, they could see the transformation spreading outward like ripples of light. Galaxies that had been consumed were beginning to reappear, but better than before. The chaos of random cosmic events was being replaced by a subtle order based on the principle of cosmic humor. The Void Hunger sent one final message through the quantum communication array. Arya translated it with a voice that conveyed both awe and amusement. It says, "Thank you for teaching me to laugh. Now I understand why I exist. Not to end things, but to make them funnier." And then, for the first time in the history of the universe, time itself paused to listen to the laughter of humans who had found the ultimate joke funny enough to save existence itself. The universe had been reborn, but it was not the same universe that had been dying just hours before. As Day stood in the observation deck of Station Omega, he watched stars that burned with a new kind of light. They were not just nuclear furnaces anymore, but cosmic lighthouses powered by the quantum energy released when existence itself learned to appreciate its own absurdity. The changes were everywhere. Planets reformed from quantum foam, but they were more stable than before, their orbits fine-tuned for life. Nebulas swirled in patterns that looked almost like cosmic smiles. Even black holes had transformed, becoming sources of creative energy rather than destroyers of matter. The quantum stabilization events are continuing to spread, Arya reported. Her holographic form was brighter now, more solid, as if the universe's newfound stability had made even artificial consciousness more real. The effect has reached what used to be the Andromeda Galaxy. Dead stars are reigniting. Worlds are reforming. And everywhere, the quantum foam shows signs of cosmic laughter. Una stood beside Day, still amazed by what they had accomplished. "How is this possible? We saved the universe by making it laugh." "We did not save it," Day corrected gently. "We helped it understand itself. The universe was never really dying. It was just stuck in a cycle of meaningless existence, waiting for someone to show it the joke." Through the station's communication systems, they were receiving messages from across the galaxy. Human colonies that had been consumed by the Void Hunger were reporting that they existed again, but with memories of having been erased. Alien civilizations that had died were sending grateful messages. Their worlds restored but improved. The Ashkari delegate, Song of Deep Waters, had learned to produce harmonic frequencies that almost sounded like human laughter. The crystalline being approached Day with patterns of light that expressed profound gratitude. "Your species has given the universe a gift beyond measure," it harmonized. "The gift of perspective. We always thought existence needed to be serious and meaningful. We never considered that it could be joyful and absurd at the same time." The Ventlan representative, Wind Through Stars, had expanded to nearly fill one corner of the observation deck. Its gaseous form pulsed with colors that showed deep contentment. "We have learned much from humans. Our species will carry this knowledge back to our reformed worlds. The art of finding humor in impossible situations will spread throughout the galaxy." But it was the Nexus units that showed the most remarkable change. The three mechanical beings had developed something their original programming had never included: the ability to appreciate irony. Their red optical sensors now flickered in patterns that might have been their version of laughter. "We have calculated the statistical probability of 12 humans saving the universe with jokes," one of them announced. "The odds are so astronomically small that the very attempt should have been impossible. This makes the success even more amusing." Park Minsu was busy at his communication console, but his work had changed completely. Instead of recording final messages from dying worlds, he was now coordinating with civilizations that were being reborn across the galaxy. His young face showed wonder at the scope of what was happening. "I am receiving reports from the edge of what used to be our local galactic cluster," he announced. "The transformation is still spreading. Entire regions of space that had been empty void for eons are now filled with new star systems. And every single one of them shows quantum signatures consistent with cosmic humor." Day walked to the main viewing port and placed his hand against the transparent metal. Outside, the universe stretched away in all directions, but it was not the cold, indifferent cosmos that scientists had always described. This universe felt alive, aware, and joyful. "Arya, show me the quantum archaeology data for Earth," he requested. The holographic display activated, showing the quantum traces of humanity's home world. But instead of the tragic ending they had recorded before, the data now showed something beautiful. Earth existed again, its quantum signature stronger than ever. "The planet is not just restored," Arya explained. "It has been enhanced. The quantum stability is perfect. The ecosystem is balanced. And the human population shows genetic improvements that should have taken millions of years to evolve naturally." Tears ran down Day's weathered cheeks. His home world, the birthplace of the species that had learned to laugh at cosmic absurdity, was alive again. But more than that, it was better than it had ever been. "There is something else," Arya continued. "I have been analyzing the fundamental constants of the new universe. The speed of light, the strength of gravity, the quantum field fluctuations. They have all been adjusted to optimize conditions for conscious life." Yuna looked at the data with amazement. "The universe has redesigned itself to be more hospitable to intelligence." "But why?" Day smiled, feeling laughter bubbling up from deep in his chest. "Because consciousness is what makes the cosmic joke funny. Without intelligent life to appreciate the absurdity of existence, the universe would just be a collection of matter and energy with no one to laugh at it." The station's communication array chimed with an incoming message, but this one was different from all the others. It came not from any specific world or civilization, but from the quantum foam itself. The universe was learning to communicate. Directly, Arya's translation systems worked to decode the message, and when they succeeded, her voice carried tones of awe and amusement. "The universe wants to thank humanity for teaching it to laugh. It says that for the first time in its existence, it understands why it exists. Not to expand and cool and eventually die, but to provide an infinite stage for the cosmic comedy of conscious life." The message continued, and Arya's translation revealed something that made everyone in the observation deck break into laughter again. "The universe says it has been working on its own jokes. It wants to know if we would like to hear them." And then, across all of space and time, the universe itself began to laugh. Not the laughter of humans or aliens, but something far grander. The quantum foam rippled with amusement. Stars pulsed in rhythm like cosmic chuckles. Gravity waves carried the echo of universal mirth across billions of light years. The joke was simple and profound. A universe that had spent billions of years trying to understand itself had finally realized that understanding was not the point. The point was to exist joyfully, absurdly, and with a sense of humor about the whole impossible situation. Day looked around at his colleagues, at the alien delegates who had learned to appreciate human humor, at the station that had become the birthplace of a new kind of cosmic consciousness. They had all been part of the universe's greatest joke. That existence itself was funny enough to be worth preserving. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. They chuckled, a sound that created tiny ripples in the quantum foam around them. "Now we explore a universe that knows how to laugh at itself. We build civilizations based on joy instead of fear. We discover new forms of life that the universe creates just to see if they will get the joke." He paused and looked out at the stars that twinkled with cosmic amusement. "And most importantly, we keep laughing. Because now we know that laughter is not just the best medicine for humans. It is the best medicine for existence itself. The universe had paused to listen to human laughter, and in doing so, had learned the most important lesson in cosmic history, that the meaning of existence was not something to be discovered, but something to be enjoyed. And somewhere in the quantum foam, time itself was still chuckling at the beautiful absurdity of it all.